Hi guys, Army Wife here. This video is going to be a video about how I make bread. And I do this with my food storage. Make sure I got this video camera set so you can see. Now obviously I wouldn't use my KitchenAid in an SHTF situation, but for the sake of time, this is what I'm using. Okay, so I have in my container, I have 3 cups of water and a tablespoon of yeast. How I do it is I do 1 cup of water per loaf that I want to make. I do a teaspoon plus per cup of water. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put in the honey. Now, for 3 loaves, I'm going to use 1/3 of a cup of honey. If I was only doing 2 cups of water, I would do 1/4 of a cup of honey. And don't ask me how I came up with that. It's just how I do it. So, I'm going to put this in here while my yeast is blooming or proofing. Alright. Another thing that I do is I only have 2 loaf pans. So what I do is 3 loaves. And I do 2 loaves in my loaf pan, and then my the 3rd part of my dough, I usually make dinner rolls or hamburger buns or sandwich rolls or French bread or something like that. And the French bread is just basically tricking the dough. It's how you cook it. It has to do with steam in the oven, and I'll show you. This is some French bread that I made the other night with this recipe, and it's nice and crusty. It's nice and airy and pretty, basically the only thing I did different was when I shaped the loaf, I made slices across it, so when it rose, it expanded and made these nice pretty cuts. I don't know why you do that. That's the way you do it, I guess, for looks. I don't know. And then I sprayed the loaf with a spray bottle like this that I got at the dollar store. A spray bottle like this. I sprayed the loaf lightly, and then I put a 1/4 cup of water in the bottom of my oven before I put the bread, but about the same time I was putting the bread into the oven, and I put it on a cookie sheet with some cornmeal on it so that it gave it that cornmeal look on the bottom. And that's what makes it crusty on the outside and makes it nice. So anyway, so I've got my yeast is starting to bloom, so I'm going to put my dough hook in here. And I've got my sugar. I'm just going to give it a little stir. Okay. The next thing I'm going to put in here is I'm going to put in dry milk. And I use a tablespoon of dry milk for every cup of water. So I did 3 cups of water. I'm going to do a tablespoon of dry milk. And this recipe I came up with on my own. I failed at making bread so many times, and I just started watching what other people do, and I started tweaking it and making it my own. Now I live in a humid area. I live in Virginia, so it's pretty humid here. Okay, the next thing I do is I put potato flakes in. Now, the reason I put potato flakes in is because potato is a starch. You can use this as a food starch, and this is a dough enhancer. You don't have to go buy fancy, expensive dough enhancers. Your potato flakes are one part of what a dough enhancer is. So I'm going to use 2 tablespoons per cup of water. So I'm going to do 6 tablespoons of potato flakes. You can use potato flour. Now see, I just take my stuff out of my food storage. I store my stuff in gallon-sized Mylar bags, and then I bring it in here, and when this is empty, I put it in my canister, which is lined with a plastic bag. Sometimes I have to replace the plastic bags because they get kind of old, and I just use the twist-tie cheap bread bags. Okay, so let me give this a little stir again. And while that's stirring, I'm going to put the other part of my dough enhancer in. Now, acid is the other part of a dough enhancer. And you can use vitamin C, or you can use vinegar. And I am using vinegar because that's what I use. Just regular distilled white vinegar. It does not do anything to the taste of your bread. So I put a teaspoon in per cup of water. So 1, 2, 3. And see, I just buy these little cheap things at the dollar store because I buy gigantic containers of things, and I want to keep those stored, obviously not in my tiny little kitchen, so I just put what I need in here, and then I just refill it when I need to. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is, now you can either do olive oil, regular oil, or butter. For this recipe, because it is Christmas, I'm going to do a combination of olive oil and butter. So let me go get my butter. My butter is softened. And I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of fat per cup of water. So I've got 2 tablespoons of butter. Actually, I should have done 3 tablespoons because I'm going to do half and half. So this is going to be 6 tablespoons of fat. So I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of butter. I know it's really, really soft. It's really warm in here, so I'm not even going to bother to melt it because it'll melt in this hot water that I've got in here with the yeast. So get myself a towel. Alright, and then so I still need to do 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, if you're in an SHTF situation, you do not have to put oil in your bread, but I do highly recommend the vinegar and the potato flakes, especially if you're using hard red wheat or hard white wheat, just for the, I think it helps with the digestibility of it. So, I mean, it just makes, I think it makes a difference. Make sure I get the rest of this goodness out of here. Alright, so I'm going to turn that off. It's all getting mixed up pretty good. The yeast is blooming really nice. Let me show you what it kind of looks like. I don't know if you can see, the butter is melting, see, because it was really, really warm, and anyway, it was really soft to begin with, and then that water was hot, and then the potato flakes and the sugar, and then the yeast is blooming around it, so the sugar, or the honey, and the starch from the potato flakes are feeding the yeast, and so it's really foaming up fast. I can actually see it foaming. You probably can't on the camera, but I can. So let me take you back over here. Put you back on your little seat. I do not have any kind of fancy camera setup. My setup is what you see is what you get. So, and you know, I got flour like everywhere because I've been baking cookies and it's Christmas, you know. Okay, so everything is blooming. Everything looks beautiful in there. So now I feel comfortable putting my salt in. Okay, and I also buy my salt in bulk. I guess I should probably use a spoon for you guys. I use a teaspoon of salt per cup of water. So 3 teaspoons of salt. Okay. And again, SHTF situation, this stuff is not necessary. I mean, I think the salt helps with flavor, and having good flavor helps with morale. Everybody knows food is one of those things that really helps with morale. All right. So, oops, that's my light bar. I'm going to start adding in my flour. Now, for you guys, I'm going to measure the flour because I normally don't measure it. So, let's start out here with 1, 2, 3 cups of my this is my home ground flour. You guys watched me grind it in a previous video. If you didn't see me grind it, then go back and watch me grind it. Okay, so I have 3 cups of flour in there. I'm going to start mixing that.
Going hunting.
You're going hunting? Without me?
You're cooking.
Who are you going hunting with?
Gun, Remy.
Who are you going hunting with?
Just me.
Why are you going without me?
You want to go?
I'm in the middle of making bread. That is cruel. Cruel and unusual punishment.
I don't shoot any bull that doesn't have a whole lot of horns.
Are you really going to go hunting without me?
I want to.
Okay. Bye. No, go. I want venison, so go. Maybe you'll have better luck without me. I think that's just wrong. You hear that, YouTube? He's going hunting without me. Because I'm baking bread for you guys. And for him. Ah. Alright, so I put 3 cups of flour in there. And it's pretty well mixed in. So, oops, I guess I better measure. And now I'm going to do just 1 cup at a time. I've seen Atticus 9799 has that brand new KitchenAid, and it's got a wider base on it, so it's easier to put the ingredients in. Very jealous. Alright, bring you over here so you can see. Now when you get to this, where it starts to, as you can see, where it starts to look like it's pulling into making a dough, this is when you want to stop adding it cup by cup. Now I'm going to stop this video and make a part 2 because YouTube won't let me do any more than this. So I'll be back.